Welcome to Best Practices. I'm joined by one of my favorite people in Eyecare, Bill Gerber. He is the founder and president. And what other fun title do you have over at OMG Marketing?
Visionary.
The Visionary.
Yes,
Perfect.
that's correct.
Well, welcome, Bill. Great to
Thank
have
you
you.
so much. Pleasure, Steve. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Let's shift to a topic that
Sure.
you brought up, and I think is also really important and something that you're quite expert in is best practices for leveraging technology in your practice. And there are a couple of different ways you can go with this. There is diagnostic technology.
Yes.
There's certainly contact lens technology. There's lens technology, but there's also retail technology. Where would you like to take the conversation? Where do you think best practices are most missing?
Well, I think there's obviously there's patient-facing technology that is retail technology that's designed to help facilitate selection and purchasing and visualization. I think that is really in its infancy right now, right? I think we've got diagnostic technology, we have CRM, patient management technology. We've got a subscription contact lens with, all sorts of technology out there. We've got the ability with, products like the Edge and other things to analyze our data. So I think the back-facing technology is fantastic in this business, and there's uh, almost an oversupply of it, right? But I think that the opportunity today is in what the patient sees, what helps them to understand what's going on, with tools out there like Aloha, great tool, with Content Link, our digital signage platform, with Anagram, obviously, with that type of technology, they can really help facilitate and help people, visualize, like Optify too, what a fabulous technology. So, um, but I do think that one of the barriers that arises with implementing that technology is technology fatigue, right? And subscription fatigue. I mean, I don't know about you, but we go through regularly, probably every 6 months at OMG, and we're just like, okay, what are all the subscriptions we signed up for that we don't need, right?
Right.
And then a lot of times when I'm
Absolutely.
getting pitched personally on a new tech, like I was yesterday, I'm like, oh man, it's another tech we have to do. It's another integration. It's another thing. So it can be rather burdensome. But when you imagine that all of this cool tech is available right now, with digital signage in store to help extend your social media messaging and your website messaging, with follow-up technology, with AI coming in, for you know, customer service agents and follow up on exams and making recommendations. I think that technology is really just at the beginning. And for those people who adopt it, there's going to be things that work and there's going to be things that don't work. But I think for those who adopt it, the early adopters, they're winning the game right now, right? There's a practitioner in Central West Florida named Troy Bettinghouse, and Troy Bettinghouse is one of the most curious people I've ever met. He shows up at every CE, right? Could be an optical CE, optometry CE. He's constantly asking questions. He's updating his digital signage in his practice, 3, 4 times a week, right? Rainy day special or welcome to summer or happy Memorial Day. And, he ties it back in, right? Going on a trip this summer, consider this, consider that. So I think this tapping into the technology, being open-minded, maybe even having a day or two a month where you're exploring new technologies. So, to quote our friend Brianna Rouge, take the call, see the rep, check it out, see if there's something there. And if you believe that there is, then, try it out. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, then just know you're going to have, I mean, to get one great success, quite often you have to have 3 or 4 failures.
I think that's so important. You made a couple of really great points throughout that I want to touch on.
Sure.
One of which is there's an oversupply, potentially an oversupply of back-facing technology, and I
Ugh.
think if I understood correctly, it's not that there are too many things for things that are unnecessary. It's that there are so many choices for so to create solutions for problems that you're facing. And then to me, that raises the question, how do you decide? Right?
Hmm.
How do you decide which one to pursue? There are a couple of dozen PM systems in
Yeah.
Eyecare, and they all say that they do the same thing. They all purport to be user friendly and
Mhm.
modern and sleek and fast, but the truth is,
Yeah.
they're not really. Some are faster than others, some are more user friendly than others, but
Hmm.
most of them are dependent entirely on the user, right? So they're
No
user
question.
friendly if the user understands how the tech works. And I point on PM systems because they can do so much. And in my experience, and I've worked with hundreds of practices at this point, I could maybe count on one hand the number of practices that use their PM system to the fullest, that went through
Hmm.
the trainings, that continue to train their staff on how to use it, so that they've implemented it fully. So I think there are two elements of making technology work for you, both of which are often missed in our industry. Thing one is, how do you decide which technology to adopt? And
Hmm.
thing two, and I think is even more important, once you've made that decision, how do you implement it to the point that it was a successful decision?
Yeah, great point. So, I see a lot of people who give up on technology pretty quickly. And that's a mistake. And I think it's just like anything. If you adopt something, you want to see it through and you want to shepherd it and you want to do everything you can to make sure it succeeds. One of the questions, and this is going back to your practice management observation, which I think is spot on. One of the questions I've asked, and by the way, all these survey questions that we've asked were answered by almost 10,000 different people. So I think I have a very accurate handle on what people are feeling out there. Um, and one of the questions that I pose is, our practice management system helps us to sell more product? Right? That's the question. It's basically a yes or no question. And we're about 85% saying no, it does not. It slows me down.
Right.
So, PM makers out there, heads up. That's what your people are feeling like, hey, I got to spend 15, 20 minutes entering an order. And this is, way more work sometimes than it's worth. And with the fact that most practice management systems don't have a sales presentation component to it, then the ECP is forced to pull something else out, maybe a Aloha system or a content link system or Dr. Contact Lens or Optify, whatever the system is. So that kind of switching from platform to platform, is a lot of work, right?
Absolutely. And I think to that exact point, your options are either provide enough training for your team so that they can use the PM system without it being a detriment,
Yep.
and or provide enough training to your team that they're capable salespeople on their own, or supplement your PM system, which is pretty expensive, high value
Yeah.
expense, but pretty expensive, but supplement that with another sales tool that is also pretty expensive, especially if it's only used intermittently, especially if it's not used effectively. So then the question again becomes like, how do you implement something effectively? I have a conversation that I have fairly regularly. You talk to practices that they go to a conference and they meet somebody like a Bill Gerber and they get
Mhm.
excited about Content Link, and but then they don't tell their team about it. It's just something that their team has now, and they haven't set up a go-to-market plan where they talk to their team about, here's what we're bringing in, here's why we're bringing it in, here's what's going to happen. And I think that element of getting your team on board before making a big change like that is a huge miss. How do you feel about that? How do you feel like we can improve upon that?
Well, I think the most important thing is to decide what you're going to implement and then stick with it, right? We know that no habits are changed in less than 30 days, right? And it's really more like 90 days. You have to get into that habit of using it. There's a practice that we work with in the Midwest, um, and they have a very unique name. It's called Family Vision Care, right?
Ooh,
Um, Family
the
Vision
famous family vision care.
the famous Family Vision Care, yeah. So Family Vision Care had adopted our technology. They put about 8 different screens throughout their optical and a couple other touch points. And then they had three 10-inch tablets that they used at the dispensing tables that would play different promotional content of their choosing. Ask about our multi-pair savings plan. Did you know we treat myopia? Scan this QR to make another appointment, which is a really cool thing. Um, and then what they said was, you know what? They noticed that only one of their 4 opticians was using the lens demo component in that. And so they said, you know what? Hey guys, let's do this for the next 3 weeks. Everybody, every patient, use the lens demo interactive as opposed to, drawing a corridor on a piece of paper or putting a tinted lens over a piece of white paper, all these typical things. Just use the lens demo. And so on the lens demo, one of the components is a progressive. And at the time we had good, better, best, which we've now updated to better and best. And I got a call. They said, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." They said, "We're selling where we only used to sell about 8% premium progressives. We're selling 59% premium progressives." And granted, this is in a demographic, it's not a high-end demographic at all. So, does it work? Yes. Is consistency required? Without question. So that's the thing. So I'd say, a lot of staff is waiting for that enthusiasm of the owner or manager or administrator when they came back from that conference and they bought that thing. They're kind of waiting for it to wear off. Like, oh, she'll
Right.
forget about it, right? He'll forget about it. But I do think it's important that you kind of buckle down and you really dig in to the technology, especially, obviously once you get all your clinical and your PM and you have your integrations done with your equipment, really look towards how do we tell our story in the best possible way in office? Because the truth is that we can do all the social media marketing we want, and we can do all of the communication that's feasible on our websites. But unless we make the connection back at retail where the actual transactions are happening, and last time I checked, almost 100% of all transactions, especially in the independent space, are happening right at a physical location. Why not continue the storytelling right there?
It's such an important point. If if you were running a practice, what technology would you look for first?
Well, we don't run any practices right now, but with our recent acquisition of Essilor-Luxottica, we now have about 14,000 that we will be taking over in the near term. So,
Very nice. Yeah, that's a it's a bold strategy. I'm curious how that's going to pay off.
well, yeah, I was thinking of, maybe starting to wind it down at some point, but I like this new invigoration and opportunity.
It makes good sense.
Seriously, I don't know if you ever caught our video making that announcement out in front of
I did see
PEL
that.
HQ, but okay. That's a whole different story. But um, I would, I think it's really, really important that uh, we consider, our strategy, right? And I think a lot of us, myself included, we're dealing with what's in front of us right now. So, putting on that strategic brain versus that, I am living in this present moment trying to get by and deal with things and, put the fire out over here or,
Right.
deal with this upset patient here. It's really taking some reflection time and saying, okay, what's the experience that we present here? All right. So I think the strategic planning aspect and knowing where the practice is going and then sharing that, articulating that with the team is, second to none. One of the masters of this is Danny Clark, an
Oh yeah,
optometrist,
absolutely.
West Texas, right? Really one of the best at articulating that and having the team, and he's a very large team, able to convey, hey, here's where we're going, here's our results, here's what we're trying to achieve. I think that's super critical. But get out and really make time for strategic planning. Currently at OMG, we're going through the EO implementation system, which is very difficult. Entrepreneur organization system, EOS, that was made popular in the book Traction. And, we've been working on this for well over a year now, and it's hard, right? Getting it to stick is hard. Getting people on board is hard. But, like my dad said, if it was really easy, everybody else would be doing it. So
Right.
we're committed to the
I,
longer
I
range.
think you touched on a couple of really important points where the focus on implementing technology or even deciding technology requires some strategic thinking. And I think you also pointed out that a lot of the industry is focused on tactics because they're reacting to what's currently happening in their business rather than proactively trying to change it. Now, that's not true for everybody, but it is a common refrain where if you're seeing 40, 50 patients a day, you don't have time to work on your practice because you're booked out in advance and someone's going on leave and you don't have enough staff to support what you need to
Yeah.
do. So, if you were to give advice on how do you make time for strategic thinking for your practice,
You
what's
have to
a
schedule it. You really have to schedule it. You have to get off site whenever possible, or if you have a meeting room with a hermetically sealed door, that really helps too. But really get off site. It could be half a day. Involve as much of the team as possible in baking the cake. Really important, right? Great example is a practice called Urban Optics, run by Dr. Matt Green in College Station, Texas. Matt and Steve Green. They have a couple locations. They're a great client of ours. We designed two offices for them. Um, but they've really taken time to do some retreats, right? They went to Europe to do a management retreat, right? I think there may have been some Burgundy or Bordeaux involved for sure, but I think just making that time and then trying to, figure out where that strategic planning is going to take you. And sometimes, that's a messy process too. And what I find is in our work, we encounter a lot of ECPs as they're in some sort of transition, right? They're considering, building a new practice or expanding or what have you. It normally means that they're doing strategic work, and this is a manifestation of something they want to do. But sometimes we encounter people who don't have a strategic plan at all. They're like, "Hey, I want to make my place nicer." And a lot of times I'll say, you know what, let's wait on that. I want to know how this fits into the strategic plan. I had somebody yesterday, he's like, I got 100 grand for you. What are you talking about? I said, it's not about the 100 grand. It's about, what that 100 grand is going to do for you. Is this going to be a 10x ROI or is this going to be a 2x? And I want you to really think about all of that. And he called me back later in the day. He said, thank you so much. He said, we're going to take some time and plan, and I'll be back with you next month. I said, great. That's perfect. Let us know how we can help.
I think that we want to when I'm going to help a practice, making sure that the thing that we're discussing, the thing that we're offering, does fit into what they want to
Yeah.
accomplish. And that they have sound reasons for wanting to accomplish that thing. Many conversations I have are with practitioners or practice owners who say, like, I want to drop these vision plans. And my response is not typically, great, let's do it. It
Yeah.
is, why? And which
Yeah.
ones? And have you done the underlying work to identify
Mhm.
which ones make sense for you to step away from? Or are you just, firing from the hip and hoping it works out? And that shooting from the hip kind of approach, it often means you have to work even harder after you've made the decision than if you'd done a little bit of pre-work ahead of time.
Without question, I see a lot of times where there's these initiatives that people take on or products that they buy, right? and there's no strategic plan for implementation. So I was just in with someone last week who, had invested heavily in IPL technology. And then, it was about a year ago, and they were disappointed because they said, wow, I'm spending whatever, 3, 4 grand a month supporting this, and I'm not making money. So what's your marketing plan? What have you done? Now we need to get to that. I said, okay, cart before the horse in this case. He said, we might be profitable this year. He goes, but I'm so frustrated because my friends are doing, three, four, $500,000 a year in additional revenue in IPL. What did they do? Well, they marketed. They internally marketed to existing patients. They did reach out. They, started to get with, some of the aesthetics people in the area and talk about dry eye and things like that and how it can help. So I think that's important. And I also think that the medical equipment industry, or I'll call it the medical equipment industrial complex in eye care, has done a fabulous job of sales, right? They come with those spreadsheets as if you do this amount of procedures, you're going to make this much money, everything's going to be wonderful. And granted, it works out quite often, but I do think that the easy purchase in eye care, especially optometry, is diagnostic equipment. And I have a lot of people who have, six, $700,000, $1 million of diagnostic equipment who have an optical that looks like it's, 1996. So, like really looking at where the spend goes. And I think there's two parts. There's an experiential spend, right? And then there's also a clinical, which is also can be part of the experience. But imagine the letdown of going through a super high-tech exam, right? This machine and that machine. It's amazing. And then you go out into optical, and everybody talks about this, and I come attack you with the Sharpie, right? Boom.
Right. Right.
So, I really want to see some consistency of experience that goes from tech to tech to tech, right? And then tech follow up, I think, is our other tremendous opportunity.
I think that that's a also a hugely overlooked element in eye care is the patient experience from end to end, and in part because I think when I say end to end, it means something different than when a typical practice owner says end to end. I'm not talking about when the patient's coming through your doors. I'm talking about your web presence.
Yeah.
I'm talking, so family eye care is a good example. There are probably hundreds of variations of family eye care
Yeah.
across the US. And all of their websites, I shouldn't say all, but most of their websites share a lot in common. They're all trying to reach the same vibe and they do nothing to differentiate themselves. Often they don't have any kind of family energy in the practice. It's just the name of the thing, but it could be any optical shop or could be any optometry office. They don't emphasize family by having like a kids section of the office, not just a kids section in the optical, but a place for children to exist in
Hmm.
the office, or specialty children's services or sports vision or any of the dozens of specialties you can carve out when you're aiming to help the entire family. So I think it's that consistency of vision from end to end, from your branding to your marketing to your emails to your website to your the way you respond to reviews online, and then finally to the way the practice answers the phone to how they greet patients when they come in and everything that follows from there.
We, as part of our work in implementing the EO system, one of the key components is identifying who your customer is, right? And when we started this exercise, I thought I knew who our customer was. It's optometrists, right? It's ophthalmologists with optical dispensaries. It's brands who need POP. Yes, that's all true. But what I didn't recognize was that each one of these has a strata and a component that is absolutely our customer, but the vast majority are not our ideal customer. So this is really a huge revelation, realizing just on the ECP side that we are best geared to serve a a practice that's into experience, that's into medical technology, that's into a great optical experience, that's into aesthetics and procedures, and somebody, that's led by somebody who really cares about this and has created a culture of caring. When it comes to brands, we realize there's not every frame company out there who needs a eyewear stand. It's really the ones who have branding messaging to tell, and they have unique product attributes that need to be conveyed. We're working on a few things right now for a new type of lens that helps with migraines, right? And that's a robust story to tell. So I think this recognition of who your ideal customer is, your ideal patient in the case of an ECP, is huge, because if you can put a lot of energy and resources to your top 10 or 15%, who I call, EAs, eyewear enthusiasts, quite often, those people literally will buy, and they'll keep buying, and they'll keep buying, right? It's almost like you get on the shoe addiction train and
Mhm.
you just want to buy. So I'd say nurture those people as much as possible. Take care of everyone else, but by all means, it can have a tremendous effect. There is one other best practice that I wanted to talk about for a second, and it's scheduling dispenses. Um, and that's another survey question I had. We schedule dispenses, right? And I think the average now is about 22% of practices, at least from what I could tell, that have been scheduling dispenses. Pre-COVID, it was about 2%. So did that help us? Yeah, it sure did. But this idea of scheduling dispenses to build value, manage time, and also have an opportunity to logically set up that next sale for the individual is tremendous. I was just talking with someone last week in Florida. They said, "Oh my God, you helped us to see the light to schedule dispenses. And guess what? Now we sell 21% of the time on a dispense."
Right.
Never did that before. Never, ever. I'm like, what do you do? They said, oh, we just pulled a couple frames that they're interested in that fit their optical treatment plan that they didn't buy, and we have them out there. I don't even do that much. Oh, I think I'll take those.
Yeah, who would have thought that making a plan and taking action on it would have an impact on the
Yeah.
results, right? Who would have guessed?
Absolutely. So, there's these things, and granted, everything we talk about here today takes time. It takes
Right.
effort. But,
Right.
I think at the core of it is the passion to serve the patient and help them see perfectly well in during all their waking hours, or is the passion to, see as many people as possible and, sell whatever we can. I don't know. I think it really comes back to that passion that the business brings to the table, because there's nothing more contagious and effective than passion.
Absolutely right. I think the point that you made is stellar. That this everything that we're talking about takes time and
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah.
The pivot that I would suggest that everybody listening to this try to take is that not doing these things also takes time and will also take a lot of effort. So it's just effort you're already doing and time you're already spending not doing it. Most things come with an opportunity cost. Every decision you
Absolutely.
make to do a thing is a decision you've made not to do something else. And in the
Without
same
question.
way that if you're seeing 50 patients a day, that's a decision you're making to see 50 patients instead of doing something that might make your business easier to run and more successful and maybe not as busy. I think there's a premium placed on busy as opposed to a premium placed on good.
Hmm. Without question. And with that in mind, since we're talking about, multiple pairs of eyewear, I think it's about time to switch them up, right? So
If you insist, Bill.
I do insist, really.
Okay,
I've and just so you know,
let's
I've
do
got
it.
my handy dandy FTG case here with I think I'm down to only 6 pairs in this case right now, but all good.
Do you have a pair of sunglasses handy?
Heck yeah, I've got a pair of sunglasses. Let me see. I've got a bunch of transitions. I've got some, let me see here. Sun, yes. How about these little numbers? This little Saint
Classics.
Laurent number. Okay, great. We've got a lot. But I think that something that gets overlooked is really retail finesse, right? I know your
Interesting.
history has been you've worked with the biggest and you've seen the retail strategy. And, I think it's important to look at the fact that, when a lens crafter does a remodel, right? It's $1.5 million. Quite often it's $2 million. It's a year-long process from beginning to end quite often. And I think a lot of ECPs radically underestimate what it takes to have the look and feel that's needed to convey credibility and to elicit buying desire. So I'm not saying it's going to cost $1.5 million to set up a nice optical. That's not my point. But I do think it's important to look at what's happening out there now in other industries and how we become so used to good design and good experience. I had somebody from Chicago call me a couple months ago on a Saturday morning. I'm literally walking down the beach, and this guy calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm ready to buy that digital signage you were pitching me on." Why? What's up? He said, "I just took my kids to McDonald's, and I realized their tech experience and their design is way better than my office to sell a $8 Happy Meal," right? He's like, "I
Right.
need to ramp it up." So I think this idea quite often in eye care is that, oh, that's a technology. Great, I think that'll catch on one day. Truth is, we walk into Target or Starbucks or, McDonald's or Apple or whatever, and we're exposed to this experience that becomes the expectation, and falling short in our eye care experience will quite often really jeopardize the outcome.
Absolutely right. It's true in store and it's true online, right? Like I'm an elder millennial. As an elder millennial, if I can't book an appointment online, I'm
Yeah,
not booking that appointment because
exactly.
it's just I don't want to pick up the phone and be on hold and go through that rigmarole. And I'm not saying that everybody is like that. I'm saying that I'm like that. So if
Yeah.
your practice right now isn't allowing me to book an appointment today, I'm going to find a practice that does.
Well, interesting topic. Making appointment setting super easy, right? People are like, well, I've got to book an appointment link on my website. Well, go further. We have a client in the Atlanta area who we did a big, beautiful build out for. And this guy's always thinking, right? What's next? What's next? He said, I noticed that every day about 3:15, traffic backs up in front of my place. There's two schools down the road, and there's all these moms, and dads waiting to pick up their kids, 200 cars deep. He said, I want to put QR codes in the window, book an appointment for yourself or your child today that you can see from the street. So we did it. We printed up these giant QR codes with that. This practice, which does a couple $1 million a year, gets about 37 appointments a month track back to that QR code. So what's that worth? A lot. So yeah, definitely make the appointment scheduling super, super, super easy.
And that's a huge part of it that we can learn from all sorts of online retailers, online experiences.
Yes.
Is a lot of times ODs, practice owners think that I'm losing customers to online retail because
Yeah.
it's cheaper, and sometimes that's true,
Yeah.
but that's not really the reason. Patients go shop online because it's convenient, because it's easy, because they can do it on their phone, not necessarily because it's less expensive, because often it isn't, especially right now. Right now, online retail isn't much less expensive than going to a store nearby. It's just easier to do it, easier to get it shipped directly to you. So, what other technologies, as you're listening to this, what other technologies can you bring into your practice to meet your customers where they are? One that you brought up earlier was Optify, putting
Yeah.
your inventory online on your website. And the pushback that I've heard in the past has been, well, if I put my inventory online, that'll give my customers an excuse to shop online. And my
Mhm.
response to that is always the same. Like, I've got news for you. They're shopping online.
Already, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, look, if we're fighting for one pair of glasses, right, or one pair of contact lenses, that's a huge fight, right? But if we're fighting for one of five or six solutions, whatever. I was on a flight a
Yeah.
couple months ago. I'm sitting next to this guy, and he's wearing a Chrome Hearts, right? He's dressed really nice. He's probably about your age. And I'm like, wow, I love your Chrome Hearts. He's like, oh, you know Chrome Hearts? Yeah, great brand. So cool. You're into eyewear, right? And I noticed he had very short hair. And I said, what do you do? He says, oh, I'm an officer on a nuclear submarine in the Navy. Cool. And I said, so what's your passion with eyewear? And he pulls out his case. It wasn't the same case I have, but just about um, six pairs of glasses in that. He said, I just came from a meeting. He says it's important to have this look, this buttoned up look. He goes, I'm going to be transitioning into civilian enterprise soon when he gets out of the Navy. And he said, and I looked at his collection, right? He had a Chrome Hearts. He had a Tom Ford. He had an Etnia, right? He had a Warby and he had a Zenny,
Right.
right? I mean, that's
Right.
what he had. And he said, my Warbies are like the kicking around, my casual, they're my jeans, right? The Chrome Hearts, the Tom Ford is the thing. So I think to the extent if we get people really thinking about this idea, and it's not a hard idea because it's really wardrobing, right? Then I think that the marketplace opens up. And if people are out and about and they pick up a frame here and they bring it to you for lenses, why not, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh man, Bill, this has been so great. I can't thank you enough
And
for
awesome.
joining me today. I really appreciate your insights. Where can the people listening to you today, where can they get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with us at omghome.net, which is the OMG website. You can see everything there. There's a contact us section. We also just put together a great new tool. It's a merchandising assessment. So you can rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 on 9 different key merchandising points and end up with an outcome. So check that out. Be in touch. We'd love to talk anytime. And we look forward to being of service. Thanks you so much for your time, Steve. You're an amazing interviewer and friend and force of good for our industry. So thank you for everything you do.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. Thank you, everybody, for listening to Best Practices. We look forward to hearing you on the next one.